Vowed never to practice law ever again at the age of 30.
They get trapped because by a lifestyle.
The 4A of success. Learn to be a good lawyer first.
Sitting here today with you, I think it's fair to say that I have the honor of sitting with one of the most preeminent names in the legal industry and in the arbitration world in particular. It's also fair to say with one of the most prominent names in the field of alternative dispute resolution, which is not limited to arbitration. But you have not always been an arbitration and a disputes lawyer, have you? Your career started entirely different.
I started my career in the north of England, in Manchester. So I did two things at university which prompted that. I did a course in what was called poverty law, which was social welfare law and human rights. And the other course which I took was private and public international law. And so when I went into practice, I had a strong left-wing bent. I wanted to save the world, as we all do in those times. And I started off being a criminal defense lawyer and we called it civil liberties in those days, but it was human rights work. I did my first case in...
Out of conviction, out of belief.
Yes,
Yeah.
oh yes. I did my first case in Strasbourg in 1976, 49 years ago. I was opposing the British government on behalf of prisoners. I was against our Attorney General and his junior, who became our judge in the European Court of Human Rights. I remember walking up the steps in Strasbourg, and a young lady came up to me and said, "You must be Jonathan Wood." I said, "How do you know?" She said, "You look terrified." I said, "I'll let you into a secret. I am. I'm about to, my opponent is the Attorney General and Nicholas Bratzer." So yes, so I did criminal law for about 7 years. I found it tough towards the end. I did one big murder case and I decided that was it. I wanted to move to the other area, which involved private international law, and the cases that I had studied at university were all about forum shopping. One firm was kind enough to recognise that I might not be completely stupid, and that was Clyde & Co. And they gave me the opportunity to, I had to start at the bottom again after 7 years.
Many people know you with different hats. What comes immediately to my mind is that you had, I think it's fair to say, the honor to serve as president of the Chartered Institute. If you could name, now it's time to be self-confident, two other great achievements you consider as amazing. Which others would you also put in the top three?
Chartered Institute, obviously, I spent a lot of time and devoted a lot of time to that, so I regard that as quite an achievement. I always regard my case in the European Court of Human Rights as
rightfully so.
One of my great achievements. I was just 26-year-old as an advocate there, so I regard that as a big achievement. And I once did a fantastic case for the Turkish government where mediation came into play. Yeah. In the days when mediation, I was a great cynic about mediation, like so many. And this case presented itself. They were constructing the highway between Istanbul and Ankara, and I thought, this is ideal for mediation. If we went to court, we would win, but it would take 10 years. I said mediation, but I had to persuade the clients that mediation would work, and we ended up having a 5-day mediation in Ankara. I see that as one of the great changes in my view of alternative dispute resolution. I was half cynic up to that point, but it changed my approach to it. I knew it would work.
I perceive you and always have as a very humble, down-to-earth person. But on this basis, I encourage you to probably share two insights. The one is, what would you say to the younger generation? What are three things that form the fundament of you being successful as skill and as mindset? And what would you say, what are one or two junctures where you said that was also, it was destiny, fate, or I was just very lucky, where I am very grateful for?
So I always say, international arbitration, many youngsters want to do it.
Yes.
And I say, look, you've only just come out of university or finished your studies. Learn to be a good lawyer first. And then you can start spreading your works into arbitration. I mean, you've got to be able to go and see whether it's a prisoner in a cell or a master of a ship on the high seas or a big businessman, and sit down and take the information in the form of a statement from them. I mean, that's a skill you have to learn. So become a good lawyer, and then you can move, because arbitration is a process after all. It's not the be all and end all.
Yes, that's one.
I have a saying, the 4 A's of success. Availability. You have to make yourself available. And that means giving 115, 125%, being available to the client 24/7. The next one is affability. People want to work with you. You know, why should they come to you? Because they get on with you. The third one, and it is the third one, is ability. At our level, we're all pretty good. So it's not the first criteria. The fourth one I always tell them is accountability. Fill in your timesheets. You owe a responsibility to the client and to those who you work for to be diligent in the way you go through the process. But the other thing I always say is opportunity. You say luck, but you make your own luck. And I have been presented with a number of opportunities. I've always taken them. A guy came into my room when I was at Trident Co and said, "Do you fancy developing the Middle East?" And I said, "When do you want to do it?" He said, "Well, I suggest we go there in a couple of weeks' time for 3 weeks." I'm with you. I'm going to go. Then I was offered the opportunity to go and work for the British government. And Singapore, I had this very interesting conversation with my colleague who said, "You know, we've got this office in Singapore and it needs a bit. Do you want me to go to Singapore?" He said, "Yes." I said, "Right. Yes."
Okay.
I feel you just have to take those opportunities as they present themselves. That's the way that you will, find your career.
Have you ever, when you look back in your career, like faced the procrastination issue?
Well, when I stopped being a criminal lawyer, it was a gradual process. I began to get quite depressed about it.
About being a criminal lawyer?
About being yes, I think the whole thing was,
yes.
It just didn't sit. So my wife said to me, put up or shut up. What are you going to do? And I thought about it. And I said, one night, "I've made a decision." She said, "What is it?" I said, "I'm going to give up the law completely." She said, "No, I didn't mean." So I did. And I vowed never to practice law ever again at the age of 30. And I took a year off. And
how did you spend this year?
Skiing and playing tennis.
How did you finance this year?
I ran 5 flower shops.
It's one of the best businesses on the world. I didn't know that, but it's like the only industry through any and all wars which constantly increase. If people are happy, they buy flowers. If people are depressed, they buy flowers.
Absolutely.
It's the same with arbitration. If they have people have a lot of money, they love going to disputes. If they run out of money, they need to go.
Yeah, so I took a year off and thought about what I really wanted to do.
People talk a lot about mental health these days. When you look back, would you say that was like close to being depressed in a medical sense?
I would say that I was fed up. I thought, is this all there is? I had achieved the objectives I wanted to do, and I thought, well, is this my whole future? I just wanted to do something different. But otherwise, we go under, there is a lot of pressure. I think there's more pressure now.
Why do you think so?
I think we're more money driven. I see some of the youngsters going to perhaps the American firm, they earn huge sums of money. And they get trapped because they buy a lifestyle and they can't get out of it. And then, 10 years of doing that, they're exhausted because the demands put on those youngsters are enormous. But I don't think it's the same as corporate law. I think, I think they impose false deadlines. I think you're able to regulate your time a bit better as a disputes lawyer. I had a principal when I was at Clyde's who always, I used to rush to him and say, "We've got a problem." He said, "Look, leave it for the weekend. It'll resolve itself." And quite often it does. Let time take care of some issues.
Yes.
Don't rush to try and solve them straight away.
Thank you so much.
Very enjoyable.
Likewise.